Peace, everybody. You are now in tune to another edition of Blackstonian Radio, and we are privileged today to have as our guest, for some of you who are, hip-hop fanatics like I am and know the foundations of hip-hop and also love writing and journalism, you will know our guest today is Bonz Malone, famous for hip-hop Immortals, We Got Your Kids, the book and the DVD. And also, too, writing for some of the best publications at what many may consider, the second golden era of hip-hop. So we'd like to welcome Brother Bonz Malone with us here today.
Good to be here, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So let me start off, the basic thing. How did you, get your start up? I read about, you being a youth writer and whatnot, but tell us a little bit about, how you were kind of, driven and supported as being a young black writer from the inner city urban environment. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was going to a 600 school in Brooklyn. It was called Street Academy. I was down on Putnam and I believe Jefferson, and it was near Nostrand Avenue. I had gotten kicked out of so many different high schools, at least 4 of them. And that was the last one that I was attending. And somebody, there was a lot of hard cases in there, like, kids with gangs and family abuse, whatever the situation was. They couldn't concentrate on what was going on in school. And they just had a bad track record. And one of the teachers that was there, had a writing essay. And the writing essay could have been about, it's about 500 words. It could have been about whatever we wanted. And, I just did it as I was interviewing myself over graffiti because, that was, really where my writing career started as far as I'm concerned. It was, definitely writing on trains. And I was the only one that I think did it. And the guy was like, he was really impressed by it. And I think I did I used the tag name Van Gogh, and then I was talking about, like, being a scribe. I'll always be a scribe. And I don't even remember, like, what I wrote in there, but it was really passionate and it was very descriptive. And, even to this day, those are, like, the 2 most standout elements of my writing. And the guy, the teacher, I wish I could remember his name, but he really advocated for youth communication, which was a high school newspaper, went to all the high schools in New York, all the public libraries, and that I should write for them, and that he knew people that was there. And I kept blowing it off, and then one day he just took me out of the classroom and then took me into the dean's office and just sat me down, and he dialed the number for me, and he just put the receiver in my hand, and I was forced to talk to the administrators over there, tell them who I was, and, that I was interested in applying for a writing scholarship that they had every summer. And, I got in, and that's how it started.
Okay. And now, at this time, how did you get your name, Bonz?
Well, Bonz, I always had that from writing graffiti, and, it was always a case where, it stands for so many different things. At one time it was Black Fonz, because that was always my show. Happy Days was always the show, and Henry Winkler was like the coolest Jewish Italian that I've ever seen, and it's like he just bugged me out. And that was the type of person that I always wanted to emulate, not him particularly, but his aura. Like everything, he was always cool about whatever was going on. Like, it could be the worst day of his life, but it wouldn't show it too much. He always had this shit on smash, because I was totally not that type of person, And I just took the name and just put a C on it, or it's like, Black Father, just put the B instead of the F, and, just started writing with that. I was working with different names, different tags and stuff, but that was the one that even my mom signed off on. She was like, yeah, I like Bonz. So I just kept that, and then, when I was during during the days of Far Rockaway when I was living out there, because I'm originally from the Bronx. I moved out to Far Rockaway when I was about 10 and stayed there for 6 years. I left and went to Brooklyn when I was 16. It was on my birthday I moved to Brooklyn. But during those 6 years out there, that's when I got the name Bonz, and, you know, met a nice, got a dear close family from out there, contingent that you know, started the crew that I was working with, Keep Out Suckers. You know, that started in '81. That's still the flag right there. And you know, still love those brothers. And we just came up together. And it was when I was in Brooklyn. After I moved there when I was 16, I got, you know, Malone from a plumbing truck. You know, it was actually Malone Brothers Plumbing, and I just changed the P because I didn't like it, and changed it to an M, and that was it. Then I had a whole different identity.
Wow. Now let me ask you this, because I was a kid too. You know, I loved the Fonz back in the days when it was like, you know, those lunch boxes. I had all that. I had the beach towel, all that. You know. Yeah. So let me ask you a little question. Probably nobody has ever asked you before. So you the Black Fonz. If you hit a jukebox, what song would come on playing? Would it be, you know, is it with today's catalog or back? Yes, it could be. You get it. It's an eternal jukebox. Is okay. Damn. Then if it's only one, then it gotta be Stiletto, Billy Joel. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. The Piano Man. Stiletto. Yeah. Okay. That song right there was, you know, we know it as the joint that the Cold Crush used for their original routine. It was their first routine they ever made, was off that song. But it's also like the break beat that brought me into hip hop. When I first heard that, I was about 10 or 11. I think I was 11 years old, and it was in the projects of Far Rockaway, like called Edgemere. I mean, Edgemere was bad. They called it Nightmare Projects. It was crazy. And I cut out of, you know, I snuck out the house, and I went to this jam, and I heard them playing it. And instead of, I didn't even know the Cold Crush's routine. I hadn't heard that yet. That was before my time. But when I heard the beat playing, the dudes who was rocking on it was a known crew from out there in Far Rock called the God Squad. And them niggas was just like, you know, the beat was playing, and they kept saying their name, the God Squad over it. Yo, it was so ridiculous that they was banging this in a park. And they took over the bathroom of the park, like a tool shed in a public park, and like they had a red light bulb. It was the red light bulb. It was a red light from the Techniques that was in there. That's all you saw, and like a hanging little light. And you couldn't even see the faces of these dudes, but it sounded so mysterious, and they had these huge speakers. And when I heard that, and they did that for about like maybe 6 minutes, I was just hypnotized, and I knew that you know, whatever this culture is that is emerging right now, that just got me out here at midnight listening to this, that I'm going to stay here no matter what, man, to the end. I knew it from that song right there. Wow. Now let me go on to, you know, the hip hop Immortals, because, you know, when I got hip to this, and I got the DVD sitting here right in front of me, you know, when I got hip to this, you know, some of my people, a lot of my people are into the art, you know, community, and they're everywhere from fine arts to, you know, starting off in graffiti. Some of them have matriculated from graffiti into fine arts and, you know, comic book art and so on and so forth, all the things that we've all been blessed to do. Yeah. But the thing about it, when you came out with the book as, you know, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it a coffee table book, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then subsequently the DVD, the theme about it that really captured me was that subtag, which was the "We Got Your Kids." And it seemed that you had an understanding of hip-hop where, you know, that dissected, you know, social commentary and race and politics and, you know, put it in a hip-hop context. And now, not only do I want you to talk about, you know, what led you to that work, but now the date that I have on this DVD, it says 2004, right? So if we go by that date, now we 8 years, almost 9 years later. And like now, are you even realizing the genius of what it was that you was talking about at the time, and how further that theory now has been developed?
I would believe so. I just did not know that, you know, obviously I wouldn't know what was going to come in the future. You know, I always say that, you know, Bonz Malone doesn't need no oracle. It's the oracle that needs the bones. You know what I mean? So I'm not ever going to claim like no clairvoyancy or nothing, but I knew that at that time, you know, when we're talking about We Got Your Kids, you know, it was like the Pied Piper syndrome, and like breaking that down. It's like, you know, according to the story, the fable, that, you know, the king reneged on paying this dude, you know, what he's worth, the artist. You know what I'm saying? And what I was trying to say is like the labels was, you know, not breaking off the artists the way that they should, especially the old school artists, you know, that really paved the way for it, that they should, you know, should be getting a check and a little bit more than just recognition. But be that as it may, there's a pattern that has always been set by the record labels to try to, you know, to come up on niggas because they're not up on publishing. And then they get all of this money on the publishing, and then, you know, they you know, paying them like peanuts, you know, a little penance pay as opposed to what they really could get. And, you know, just like you know, in modern times, and just like our people and our culture is, you know, we turn around and we flip the script and be like, oh, okay, well, now it's not about money. Now we got your kids. If you're not going to pay us what we're worth, then we're going to steal all your children. And that's what he, you know, the Pied Piper did, because he reneged. And that's really what the culture has done through the music. I mean, you know, that's hip hop by itself. It's like, you know, it could be, you know, it could be a rival religion. People could say that very easily. I've heard that several times. I've even said it, you know, that it's, you know, it is on a level or on par as a religion. It has no flag. It has no, you know, racial divides, no ethnic divides or something, or you know, barricades. That thing could go anywhere, and it has. And when you have something like that, that's a dynamic social movement, but that's beyond rock and that's beyond jazz. And, you know, it's like hip-hop is all of those movements combined into one. That's how powerful it is, man, that it really rocked the world, and that you can, you know, you can steal everybody's kids. Like the music itself could get your kids, you know, even if like an MC through the words or something like that, you know, the words could affect a kid that's halfway around the world without even meeting them, you know, and they could dissect your words and read the books that you're talking about in your lyrics, and you could be helping brothers to become, you know, especially smart because of, you know, a technique or a tactic just like that, and that's incredible. That's an incredible thing.
Right. Now let me ask you this too. You know, what are you working on now, and like what are plans? I mean, like, you know, we saw people like MC Search. I think he's another Far Rockaway cat, although of a different shade, right?
Yeah, that's my man.
Okay, and you know, and he's done a lot of stuff in radio now. If he's still in Detroit, you know, getting it in, and what he did with the brothers from Ego Trip. When they, you know, started their own thing in the reality show, it was campy enough, but it was less, let's say, disrespectful and just out degradance. You know what I mean? But you know, with the white rapper show and then the female rapper show, I had actually pitched to them the conscious rapper show about all the plights that the conscious rapper were going to. But I'm just thinking about Hip Hop Immortals. Are there plans for like an update, a Hip Hop Immortals Volume 2, or reality TV, or web, or like, you know, what are you doing right now? How can people get their dose of Bonz Malone, and like what's coming?
You know, you know, we talked about a Volume 2, you know, back in the days, and I would have to, you know, to reach out and talk to Mark Surov, you know, who's like the main guy in, you know, in the Sock Bandits, who I partnered up with to actually do the project, to see where it is now, where his head is at. You know, he's also managing Cartoon, has been managing Mr. Cartoon for years. That's our man out there in L.A., you know, peace to them. And just see if we could actually, if it's time now to do that. I mean, we've had offers from like, you know, all the way up to the Smithsonian to put that in, you know, into the Smithsonian. I believe that that's still a go. You know, that we were really excited about that, and I hope that's still going through. But, you know, all of us have so many different opportunities, even in this whack market, and economic time that we're in. We still got so much opportunity. So it's time to check in. As far as what I got coming, I still got the book that was supposed to be out years ago, and I apologize to the people, but there's so many hardcore things in that book that the lawyers went crazy, absolutely crazy. They're afraid of getting sued. Random House is afraid of getting sued. Anybody who picks this up has to, any publisher picks it up has to have the balls to really publish it, because I challenged them because I had the balls to write the shit. And I'm telling you, everything that is in there is true. And they're like, yo, you got to make it fiction. You got to call it fiction because, we'll be liable and, somebody will come out the woodwork and blah, blah, blah. So, it took a lot of fighting about it, and, a lot of, counsel with different people. And I think, it'll definitely work out. I just had to get to the point where I was okay with, where it was going to be as far as in what direction it was going in. And then also I'm working on Slam 2. Slam 2 is where I'm putting the real energy into right now, because the book is already done. That's just, waiting to sign off on different lawyers and, what type of deal I'm going to accept, seeing that I'm not going to get what I actually wanted originally, but I can still work with what I get, Slam 2 is where I'm going to put the most, the most attention right now, the most focus, and really tear that down. I got a lot of different jewels to drop that's really timely, that people need to know about social service, about welfare, about Medicaid, about all these things that people, that these services that are going to disappear, no matter who the next president is, it doesn't matter. Those things are going to go away during the next term. So these are the last days of like the handout, and for some people, for many people, it's not just a handout, it's a way of life. It's a means of still hanging on, and they're about to be cut off, and it's going to be real brutal. So I want to attack that and drop those jewels so that the people, our people, that are out there in any race, face, or place, man, they could get that and know how to go about doing their thing, what to expect, and how to fight the new fight that is now coming onto the table in existence, because this is going to be everything you got right now.
Now let me ask you about that, because in that we talked about the movie, we talked about publishing and whatnot, and at the time when you did this, and certainly at the time when you started out, I started out, we had the advantage of really watching hip hop morph into a time, that you now have the reach of, I got kids who's sending me beats from, the Netherlands, what I mean? Via this
dope.
email, internet,
dope, man.
Twitter, and now, when we started off to print a book or to print a DVD, you had to, bet the farm. But now you can get these things duplicated and, da-da-da-da. So I wonder how much is that coming to play, and how much you watch other people, let's say like someone who's very well known, Supreme, with How to Hustle and Win and so on and so forth. What do you think about the whole ability of independent publishing and independent, filmmaking and so on and so forth? And have you thought about, attacking that avenue as well?
Yeah, I mean, there has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. It's like it really depends on, what's good for the project that you're working on. Being after Slam and then being an actor in a movie, and then being behind the scenes as a producer in the movie, and you get to really learn, what the big picture is all about, and it's not any pun intended, but it really is a bigger picture there. There's a lot of movies that are independent, and that, it's a lot of our stories, but it's the same story. You know what I'm saying? It's the same drug story. It's the same love story. It's the same comedy. It's just in a different face and it's in a different place. But it's pretty much the same shit. And, you know, pretty much it's only the domestic market because somebody in France ain't going to really know how to, you know, identify with what you talking about in apartment 14J. You know what I'm saying? You know, they don't see that. They don't know how to wrap their mind around that. I think brothers have to finally get to a point where they're doing universal stories, not just some hood shit that you went through. Like, case for example, when I did the 50 Cent DVD, you know, the original 50 Cent with henchmen, they were mad dudes after that was coming up to me on the street, yo, you got to do something on Supreme, you got to do something on Fat Cat, you got to do something on Pee Wee. You know, I was like, yo, man, that's, you know what I'm saying, you know, that's too limited. You're talking about, these are dudes that's just in New York. You know, if you're going to do something, you come behind that, then you got to do it nationally. You know what I mean? You don't do something that's so regional like that and try to, you know, you're going to be beating yourself at the gate. So that's what I mean. It's like these, you know, just putting more thought into, like, what are the universal stories, or like what's the bigger pictures, the universal stories that you know that these things are going on in France, they're going on in Italy, they're going on in every country and in every language because it's a part of life, you know, itself. And then adapt that. Show you're dealing with it, but, you know, make it inclusive. Make it with just not just all black people in the shit, you know, but black people, white people, just people in it, you know, doing their thing and trying to survive in there. They'll do far much better than we've already done in the domestic market. The domestic market is like maybe a couple of $1 million, man, anywhere from, you know, from 2 to 5 million, all the way up to maybe 100. But you start getting over, you know, over 100 to over 100, man. That's you know, that's a foreign market. That's an international market. Then you got anywhere from 100 million to $1 billion and over. You know, The Avengers is a you know, an international movie, and and all of it. You know, you look at it, that thing is all filmed in New York City. But it's, you know, it's that type of, I mean, that might be a bad example because it's a, you know, it's a cartoon, or it's you know, it's a Marvel joint. But, you know, any one of our stories that we want to portray out there, you know, just start flipping the settings. You know, instead of making it in the projects, make it in the suburbs and some, you know, in some Asian community, in an Indian community. See how that, you know, show how that community has to overlap in the black and Latino community, how people have to get along with each other and get it on with each other, man, and still make the story beautiful. That will rock the world.
All right. All right.
I think that's what it, you know, and as far as, like, you know, what you said about the independent, you know, books and movies, it's like, yeah, you know, that right now, I see that there's a lot of, you know, hardship for some that are going in to, you know, they are from the magazine world or from the television world, whatever, and now that there is, you know, the market of the internet has just leveled the playing field, now they have to play catch up when they weren't necessarily technically proficient. Now they have to become that way. They have to learn, you know, Photoshop. They have to learn so many different things, you know, in the video realm, in the HD realm, cameras. They have to study cameras. They have to study shots now. There's a whole different, you know, so you have to go to school for this. You know, they have to go to iSchool and then, you know, get all of this technology and all of this information, and then now translate it onto the web, because that's the, you know, that's the universal medium now. And, you know, that's, now you're competing with a soccer mom who, you know, never wrote before. She never did a book. And, you know, she's all, you know, all she's doing is a blog. She's doing a diary. And, you know, she has, you know, 6 million hits. She got 6 million, you know, subscribers or something like that. That's what you're up against. you know. And some people, and I include myself in it, that was really hard for me to deal with after coming up from, you know, in my case, coming up from the streets, coming up, you know, writing as far as a career is from bombing trains all the way up to, you know, writing scripts that's winning Cannes and Sundance and shit like that, you know. I mean, that's what we did with the grace of God to you know, prove our worth and make a way in here, you know, and take an opportunity that was given to us and, you know, show our worth. That was nothing like this soccer mom that's sitting down there and just like she got a nightgown on and she's talking about how it's like to have a kid at her age and shit, like, you know, and then she has, you know, she's getting checks like $30,000-$40,000 a month. You know, dude, that's hard to deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it is. But we got her kids.
Yeah, we got her kids, but you know what I'm saying? She got our money. Word up.
We need to do a hostage exchange.
Word up, man. Word up. If we haven't lost the opportunity to do so at this point because it's so rapid, you know, it's at the point now we're playing catch up. Every day we go by that goes by that we're not actively in this market, you know, with a website, with, you know, just you know, advertising, banging it, just really staying true to our core, branding all the time. Yo, we're getting killed, man. We're getting clobbered.
Right. Now let me take it off subject a bit and talk about, you know, the modern state of hip hop. And you know, we came up, you know, certainly in our childhood, because I'm assuming we're the same age. I'm 41, born in 71. And you know, coming up in quote unquote the golden era of hip hop, but then also too in our teens and 20s, going through everything else. And you know, we had gangster rap, we had NWA, and so on and so forth. But now, as you see these things, you know, going forward, and now with even more exposure, and you know, the DVD explosion and all the bootlegs that's out there, and getting this to the barbershops and the liquor stores and whatnot. What do you really think in terms of the modern state of hip hop? You know, about the messaging and the artists and the look and the persona of it as it compares to, you know, what we may have come up with.
I hate to compare it because for, you know, really, you know, what we came up with, there's no comparison to that, man. There's absolutely no comparison to Fat Shoelaces. There's no comparison to a can of New Nile except for maybe Murray's. You know what I mean? There's no comparison to the smell of Afro Sheen. You know what I'm saying? There's just certain things that you can't compare, you know, to another generation, although they're you know, they have ties to, you know, the antiquity that we're talking about. You know, no way. You know, the music now and the culture now is totally different than, you know, than it was before, because the direction and the motive is really the motive. The motive is different, man, and the motive comes from the heart. So the heart is different. You know, when we were out there and we were doing it, and the brothers who I looked up to, you know, in the Zulu Nation, they out there doing it because they love it. You know what I'm saying? They're doing it because this thing stopped violence. It was life or death. You know, it wasn't about we're going to do this and get a record deal. You know, maybe the record deal would never come. We were still going to be doing it anyway because it saved lives in our building, in our project, in our hood. You know, it saved our own lives. So we're going to throw a jam, or else we're going to have a shootout, you know. Or, you know, it's going to be just a straight-up knifing, you know, in the dark alley behind the building because something got to give, you know. And that was really the way it was back in the Bronx, you know. And you had 40 gangs and stuff like that. Everything was on fire. But, you know, every city has had that era, you know, at least once, but most of them are more than once. So now it has gotten to the point where you can't compare theirs to ours. I mean, ours is just like the golden era. Theirs is just, you know, what they got now is, you know, they got this fantasy that you know, getting rich and you know, and having all this money is going to make them, you know, you know, it's going to turn everything around for them. They think that you know, wealth and shit like that, it dominates culture. It dominates everything there is. You know, I don't believe that they love hip-hop at all, man. I'm telling you right now, I don't believe that shit at all, and I don't care who hears that. And I love, you know, I love the challenge. I love the fact if you hate it. I don't believe y'all niggas love hip-hop at all. You fucking love money. That's what the fuck you love, and that's where you went sour at. When it comes down to us, we love this culture, nigga. We love breakdancing. We love spray painting trains, running from cops. We love stealing paint out of stores, markers, robbing other writers. That's what I did to become a writer in the public eye, was to rob writers, you know, in day and night in different train stations and yards and shit like that. That's the bones that we made. You know what I mean? It's not that, you know, we love the culture, man, and still have paint on our hands and all of that, man, and walk into somebody's house party, get behind the 1 and 2s and tear the record down, man. Take, you know, spinning back SOS band, take your time and just bring in the beginning back, and then just take it to the middle and just keep rocking off of 45. Yo, we were killing, man. That's the real thing. That is the real thing right there, man. And still walk out with the flyest chick in there. You know what I mean? If she's not on our arm, we're in her heart. We are the hero of our heart. That for that particular night right there, and that's the way it's going to stay forever. She's going to remember that night and remember the ghetto superhero that just introduced her to the freshest kids ever. That's hip-hop, man. These niggas ain't got no love like that for this culture. They got love for money. They're in this shit so that they could get paid and they could floss and they could have a phantom and talk about planes and cars and get high. That's all they want to do. Not for us, man.
All right.
Not for us. If we ever talked about that in records, ever, then it was minimal compared to where it is now. That never overshadowed the love of the rhyming game, the art of putting sentences together, flipping different things. You listen to Wu-Tang, you listen to I mean, just metaphorically, because there's so many different devastating MCs out there that's just ridiculous. You know, Pasta News is just ridiculous. Buster's ridiculous. You know, there's so many dudes. The Jizza is one of my favorite, one of the illest MCs ever. You know, Black Thought, one of the illest ever. Most Def, Talib. It just keeps going on. But anyone, and you just take the Wu, for example, their mythology, the artistry, the visionaries that they are. The things that they say translates that, man. The visions that they picture, the pictures that they create with their words. No one is doing that shit, and that was years ago. No one out there could do some shit like that, man. Not no Rick Ross. Okay? Meek Mill can't do that shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Not no Young Money, none of them characters, man. Them niggas ain't got that. The only person who could possibly do some shit like that is the real thing, brother. That is word is bond. The real thing could do that. Nobody else could do that, man. Those are niggas who carried records, from jam to jam. Those are people who cut out of school, risked their lives to listen to one record. You know what I'm saying? Going to different neighborhoods, unsanctioned. You know what I'm saying? Just to go to one jam because the illest DJ in town was the illest DJ in the city was gonna be there, and it was on the other side of town. You risking your life to be there. That's the real thing. Now, they don't got no comparison with that, and it's a shame. And don't ever expect that to come back. That era was gone, and they'll never be the same again. Now it's their era, and they're gonna have to make it into what they could make it into and what they're gonna make it into. That's their responsibility. That's not ours.
All right. All right, well, with that, I think we about wrap that up. And, it's been a pleasure talking with you. And before we go, please let the people know, where they can find you or what have you, your website or whatever you want the people to know that's coming on the horizon they should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, just be on the lookout for Slam 2. It'll be coming. I'm working on the script right now. There's going to be some surprises. It won't be about poetry this time. We're going to take it to a whole different, a different level, but, it's going to be mad effective. Trust me that. It's going to be mad effective. In the meantime, you can get at me. I'm at Gmail all the time, man. Bonz Malone at Gmail. You could check me out on Facebook, man. Throw something in the inbox. If I could do it, I most certainly will. You know what I mean? Just stay tuned. I mean, the .com, BonzMalone.com will be up and running. You'll hear about that when it launches. We don't sell no wine before it's time, but I've always been out here for the community. I'm always going to be out here for the community. And anytime you don't see me, man, trust me, it means that I'm getting stronger. That's all it is. And then I'm about to bring the business to this industry. Trust that. Trust that. Them niggas know that, man.
All right, man, peace. So once again, Jamal Crawford for Blackstonian Radio. You just heard words of wisdom from Bonz Malone. Stay tuned, stay on deck, and we keep you posted. All right? Peace.
Big love to you, brother. Peace.